God of War Ragnarok. This will be a spoiler review. I'll get into some plot and some other odds and ends are definitely spoilers. It's not gonna be a long review. I ended up giving this game a 4.5 out of 5. The first God of War game that I played was the previous one, so I have no experience in the franchise before that. I reviewed that, I really enjoyed it, but it had some flaws. The second game here is very similar. I mean, this is a direct continuation of the story. A couple of years have passed, but this story completely continues. It's the same, Asgardian, kind of Nordic, setting. I mean, it's just a direct continuation. It's not like reinventing the wheel. It's the same game with some tweaks, some definitely some improvement, and then just the continuation of the story. I don't want to go too deep into like stuff I already said about the last game, but the short version is I really like how the environments are designed. I like the creature designs, which I think are much better this time around. I do like that lore. I'm a little bit slightly more familiar with that kind of the whole Asgardian and the nine, all the realms and all that stuff. Obviously, most of that's from like Marvel Comics, which is a very watered down and different version of the original tales. I think the combat feels a little bit more varied this time. I mean, you still have your Blades of Chaos and you still have your axe. You do eventually get a spear. The shield is much more functional here, and there's more stuff you can do with it. So I think, depending on how you like to play, I think you kind of can do what you want. If you like to get out there and just get the blades and just kind of swing them around and take a bunch of enemies out at once, you could do that. You like just fighting with the axe and throwing it at people. You got, just whatever your method of play. I think you can kind of be pretty flexible here. If you just want to run in and hack at the enemies, you mostly can. You definitely get rewarded more for dodging, and especially you get rewarded more for parrying an attack and setting up a counter. The Metroidvania aspect of the game didn't feel as bad this time. There's certain areas you just can't explore everything until you get some special equipment, and you have to come back later. I think because I knew how last game was, I was more prepared for it, so I was ready for this. Not being able to get to everything right away. And you got your points where you can't explore, and then you have points where you can explore as much as you want. So it's kind of hard to balance. Do you go crazy exploring when you can't get everything, or do you wait till later? But obviously you kind of do want to improve your equipment, improve your stats, and whatever you can get to make your battles easier. I do wish that there is a handful of things that I was trying to get done before I beat the game. That's one thing about if I do video game reviews. I like to finish the game before I review it, and unfortunately I like to do as much as I can before I beat the game. All the side quests, anything I can do first, which means I don't get game reviews done until a long time. Probably everyone that's going to play this game has already played it. I don't think anyone's waiting on this review. But there's definitely certain things you cannot do until after you beat the game. So I'm looking around all over the place for, the flowers that there's the flowers you have to pick. I think it's the Realms in Bloom is the name of the side quest, where I was looking for some lore. And, I knew this stuff was roughly where it's at. I knew certain things were in Midgard, or I knew certain things were here. And I'm looking all over the place for it, and then come to find out you can't get to them until you beat the game, and then they get unlocked. So that was a little annoying. I probably wasted a lot of time looking for stuff that I couldn't even find yet. The actual boss battles were relatively simple. There was a lot less. I thought the first game had a little too much, like, you have to hit a certain button at a certain time, almost like a quick time thing, fighting the bosses, as opposed to just how your skill is with your weapons. So it's like you might get really good at fighting a certain way, and then the boss battles used to be so radically different. It was, I don't know, I didn't really care for the way they did it. It's a lot better this time. There's tons of mini bosses. You got all the berserkers. It's basically the equivalent to the Valkyrie fights in the first game. Those get pretty challenging, especially if you try to do it too soon. They did even throw in a Queen Valkyrie again. If you remember the fight from the last game, it's very similarly structured and the same type of attacks. So if you were able to fight her if you were to beat her last time, this new fight's not that much harder. Also, I was going to say, if you roll from the first game right into this one, and you've already picked that combat up, you should, crush it. If you're like me and you haven't played in a few years, it's going to take a while to get back into the groove again. But you got so much more variety in what you can do with the shield and throwing to some trees you can pick up and throw at people, and you unlock certain perks for your weapons. You can unlock these skills and add either damage to the attack or add stun to the attack. So there's a lot of variety what you can do and how you level your character up. I could probably go all day about this kind of stuff. I said it's a little bit more fun to play. It's a little bit more flexible, I think, in the combat and how you structure, how you build your character. Story-wise, again, pretty good. It definitely continues where it left off, where Kratos and Atreus have gotten this father-son thing really going, and they're, he's becoming a man now, and there's definitely a different interplay, but they're a lot closer this time around. There's a lot more about Atreus' independence. You actually do get to play as him in several different levels, which also adds some variety to the game. It's not as fun playing with him. It's a lot of whacking stuff with your bow or archery, and you do get to turn into a wolf as your rage attack, as your whatever you want to call it. So that's fine. There's a lot more combinations with companions. Sometimes you got Atreus with you. Sometimes you got Freya. Sometimes it's Atreus and one of the dwarves. Sometimes it's Atreus and his magic sword. Sometimes it's multiple. So it gives a little bit more flavor to the attack, and also just the interplay between the characters, which I think really helps expand the game. Graphically, I did play the PS5 version. I don't know how this compares to the PS4, but I thought the graphics were relatively the same. Nothing blew me away. Oh my god, this looks so much better. But the facial animation was really well done. These, especially Kratos doesn't talk a lot. You see the emotion on his face. You see what he's feeling. You see him, reacting to stuff. And the dwarves do it. And it's any characters that you know their personality. How they feel about certain things. You can just see it in their face how they're reacting. So that was really well done. They went a little more closer to the classic Asgardian myth. So the Thor and Odin we got here are not what you would get if you're expecting the Marvel Comics version. Thor, he's just a drunken, big, chubby guy. They do flesh him out as the story goes along, so he actually becomes a pretty sympathetic character. So it's a pretty bit of a downer when he gets killed. They took a really unique take on Odin. He's kind of almost scrawny. He's almost got this kind of a mob boss, kind of used car salesman kind of way of talking. It's not what you expect out of Odin at all. This guy's supposed to be the king of Asgard. He does not talk like, any kind of royalty you would expect. But you can just tell he's definitely a massive douchebag, and he gets what's coming to him. And then story wraps up nicely again. A great father-son moment with Atreus and Kratos. Sets up a potential arc later for Kratos to go on, maybe become a god that people actually revere, instead of the god of war that's always destroying shit. Everyone made a big fuss online, oh, there's a secret ending. There's a secret ending. It's not really a secret ending. When you beat the game, they unlock a new quest, the funeral for Brock. You do the funeral, and then that's it, and you get more credits. Like I said, it's not something that's hidden. It's not like the last game. You had to go back to the house to unlock, the Thor appearance. I think that's about it. Like I said, just if you like the last game, it's almost exactly the same, but a little bit better. If you're just now coming in, I think there's less of a learning curve this time. So I think there's a little bit more flexibility to how you play it and how you set up your characters, strengths and weaknesses, whatever, their perks and all that. The only disappointment, it really didn't set anything up for a third game. It wasn't anything, okay, this is where we're going. They just kind of left it pretty open-ended. But other than that, I have other reviews up on my blog besides this. It's mostly movie reviews. I got some TV show reviews. I got some comic strips on there. And that's all at soundedbetterininmahead.com. So if you want to check that out, that's cool. I also have a version of this review on there. There's really not any spoilers in that version. I probably should have told you that at the beginning, because then if you want to hear any spoilers, you might not have known there's a spoiler-free version somewhere. But other than that, thanks for watching.